this is the topic lecture for the Jan-Feb topic. Resolve the United States ought to become parties to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and or the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Kind of a hefty topic, but we'll break it down. Anything to say?
Make sure you hit like and subscribe.
Okay, moving on. Okay, first of all, let's go over some abbreviations. So, United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea is going to be abbreviated as UNCLOS. I don't know how you guys like pronounce it. That's how I've been saying it. International Criminal Court is ICC. This is different from the ICJ, which is International Court of Justice. DSM is deep sea mining. You'll see this as like a very common topic area. That's basically just retrieving mineral deposits from the seafloor because there's like good stuff on the seafloor, I guess. And then EEZ is exclusive economic zone. It's basically an area of the ocean generally extending like 200 miles from like their coast, in which like a nation has their coastal jurisdiction. And then finally, SCS is South China Sea, which is right here. All right. So first, we're just going to be going over 4 things. First is the background / strategy. Second is framework. Third is UNCLOS. And fourth is ICC. So first, do you want me to present this? Okay. So on UNCLOS, there's a few things you should know. So first, it's an international treaty that puts laws on like marine and maritime or ocean activities like resource management and environmental protection. It aims to balance like the rights of coastal states with the interest of the international community in ocean resources and conservation. So basically, like don't hunt endangered animals, don't like overfish, stuff like that. It's been effective since 1994, and China is a part of it too, which is of note because you'll see a bunch of like topic area about China in this debate. It establishes territorial seas, exclusive economic zones, which is EEZs, and extended continental shelves. So like first of all, this is a continental shelf right here. It's like the kind of shallow area in the ocean, and usually you'll find like a bunch of really good resources like oil, for example, there. Exclusive economic zones are important for like trade. As you'll see here, rules for the sea are mostly related to ensuring the non-harassment and peaceful passage of ships for trade. So like if you're going to like transport like a good from like country A to country B, having the UNCLOS like protect you just means that you can't like get bombed as you're shipping these goods. It's important to note that the US has never signed UNCLOS but was involved in like making it. Republicans historically hate UNCLOS because of like economic and territorial losses concerning like deep sea mining, which is DSM, and resources. Next is ICC. So ICC is actually relatively new. It's only been established since 2002, which is only 22 years ago. Like this is pretty new, even though it's like 22 years ago, because most international organizations like the UN or, for example, the ICJ is 80 years old, and also the US is not party of the ICC right now. The US signed the ICC like Rome Statute in 2000, but withdrew in 2004 because it went against like the Bill of Rights and other different reasons. The Rome Statute is a treaty adopted at a diplomatic conference in Rome in 2002 that established 4 core international crimes as like being bad and should be prosecuted. So genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crime of aggression. So we'll like break them down one by one. So first, genocide is just violence that targets individuals because of their membership of a group and aims at the destruction of people. Think of like Nazi Germany's with Jewish people. That's genocide. Crimes against humanities are serious crimes committed as a part of large-scale attacks against civilians. And unlike war crimes, crimes against humanity can happen during both peace and war. So that includes, again, like Nazi Germany, but also other different ones. Like, even if you're not fighting a war, if you're just like mass killing people, that still counts as crimes against humanity. Next, a war crime is a violation of the laws of war that creates individual crime responsibility for those actions, like intentionally killing civilians or intentionally killing prisoners of war, torture, taking hostages, unnecessarily destroying civilian property, etc. So, for example, right now, if there's like the Russia-Ukraine war and Russia's like unnecessarily killing innocent civilians, that would be considered a war crime. Finally, a crime of aggression or crime against peace is the planning, initiation, or execution of a large-scale and serious act of aggression using state military force. And it has to be a war without a just cause of self-defense. For example, if right now the US just, for some reason, starts invading Canada for no reason and starts like mass killing people, that's a crime of aggression because there's no justification behind it. Part of the ICC is that 125 states are party to this statute, but this excludes 3 really big countries, which is the US, China, and Russia. This map over here shows like kind of which countries are not part of it. Red is like completely opposed. Orange is like they don't support it, but also they like kind of observe it. And yellow is like kind of on the brink. Green is like they've submitted. And if you want more background info, there's a really good YouTube video that we'll link here later. Okay. On definitions, we have this really good document that explains definitions. It's a card dump. And basically you can look through this later and just like cut this for your own cases, but it should give you all the info needed in the what's it called? Resolution. All right, Framework, value and value criterion. You guys want to do it?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So on AF, you're gonna want to go for morality or justice because like it's really simple with ICC, like war crimes, obviously killing people and mass genocide isn't moral or just. And then with the UN clause, it's more like it's our moral obligation to like help the environment or to like there's also arguments with like economy, just have a good economy to help our people. And like with value criterions, utilitarianism is going to be a really, really big one because both of these are global treaties, so they have more scope than just the US, like civilians. So utilitarianism is going to like whoever it benefits the most is like we should or should not. And then quality of life, again, it's more on like with UNCLOS, it's like economy and climate. You know, if the climate's bad, people's quality of life is bad. If we're a poor country, then people can't afford necessities, bad stuff. Minimizing structural violence is war crime specific, more to the ICC because it has been known to be kind of racist and not good for like minorities or like countries that have more people of color. And then on neg, the value of morality is the same for the same reasons. And then governmental stability, there's some like a lot of our country hates both of these treaties, so it's signing them into like ratifying them in our could damage our government. And then value criterions, again, same thing with util and quality of life.
You also notice that, like, honestly, I think most debaters will just go to morality and util. So if you just want to run those to like get framework over with on this topic, like, go ahead. Any extra comments?
No.
Cool. Okay. Here's like the strategy for like what to do because like, this is like a very unusual topic. It's kind of like a policy topic, right? Where you have two different like resolutions within this one. So the two topic areas of UNCLOS and ICC honestly have very little in common except for the fact that they're both treaties, and this should be actually like treated as like two distinct topics. So AFs can either read one of them, read both, but like more emphasis on one, and negs will have to adapt to whatever AF reads. So that's why you'll have to have like at least one AF case and at least two negs, one for UNCLOS and one for ICC. Because like if you're just prepped out for one, you're gonna lose if the other like AF reads one and you didn't prep that out.
Also, you might hear that you need three negs to like cover for like a hybrid case, but really, if you can like you could just have two separate negs and then edit them to like merge them together to counter whatever AF runs.
Yeah, honestly, like a bunch of people have the strategy of like interchangeable contentions where you can just like you just have like a whole bunch of disads like prepped out and you can just like insert them depending on what the AF reads. And that'd be pretty strategic for this topic in particular. So like don't think that you can have like a common like stock case that beats all AFs. Like that's not possible for this topic. Okay, let's move on to the actual contentions. So first there's like a general argument for circumvention. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, so for both of these, right, both the ICC and UNCLOS, the U.S. historically hates the ICC. This is known, and Republicans, especially under Trump, this will probably be worse as well. The UNCLOS, it's a lot of the reason why we actually like backed out. So there's going to be more disadvantages for both of those regarding that. With Trump in office, there's a huge solvency deficit on the app, which is to say that once we're integrated in both of these treaties, the actual like enforcement and like the odds of us like successfully pulling them off or reaping the benefits are way lower because of the government that we're going to be having. So it's invincible to the durability fiat because even if the policy exists, because we're not denying that the policy doesn't pass because that's the fiat ability of the app, there's no guarantee that it would be adhered to well.
Yeah, and for the novices who are watching this and are like, oh my gosh, what's fiat? Fiat is just like the ability to like pass the resolution without any like concerns. So like maybe in like policy debate, for example, you'll say that like, oh, like UN clause won't like even happen in the first place because like it's so like politically unpopular. But if you say no, AF has fiat power, which they do, that just means that like yes, it will get passed. Given that this like UN clause or ICC like Rome Statute is passed, you debate whether it's good or not. But so that's like called durability fiat. It'll be there for a while. You can't just like immediately overturn it or something. But given that, like we're just gonna say that there's like a huge solvency deficit, it won't be adhered to very well or implemented very well because of politics. Okay. So first we're gonna go over like AF and neg for UN clause. AF.
So the biggest three arguments on AF would be China, environment, and the economy. China, because the English in the status quo, China is like gaining influence over maritime trade routes because they are a part of the UN clause and the US isn't. So they have better trade with those countries. The link is that when we join the UN clause, it prevents a loss of hegemony, loss of trade partners to China, and like overall prevents China from becoming significantly more powerful than us. The impact is definitely don't join it. It could we could give China a push in the arms race, which is really bad because we don't really want to go to war. But also China, if you want to do it on a lower level, China taking our money and our trade partners is also a real issue that, is bad. And then secondly, on the environment, the uniqueness is that the US causes a lot of issues for the environment and climate via deep sea mining and things we do in the ocean. The link is that when we join the UNCLOS, we have to abide by these laws so we don't destroy the planet. The impact is pretty simple. If we don't join, we're all going to die. Not actually, but you get the idea. You could list any number of reasons why hurting the environment is bad, and climate is like top priority, which you might run into even at Wolfpack. That is generally a more trad tournament. You probably can run into some extinction AFs, so just be careful of that. And then if you want to get into it, I mean, you could say that's like specifically really bad for ocean biodiversity and animals because we're destroying their habitats. So yeah. And then the economy is that we have national debt and inflation. Everybody knows this, but it's extremely relevant now in the status quo because of the tariffs that Trump wants to impose on our trade. The link is when we join the UNCLOS, it increases trade by preventing excessive jurisdiction by coastal nations and stabilizes our oil, gas industry, and like communication via submarine cables. So even despite these tariffs, we might be able to like keep up our economy. The impact is we get money, and because ocean supports 90% of global trade, it also supports in our country affordable necessities, stable jobs, economic growth, on all of those impacts that are unlocked through that.
Yeah, pretty much. On UNCLOS neg, so there's like two main DAs you'll see. The first is Econ Independence DA. Basically, right now, where our economy is like really good in the US, we're very strong and independent in like trades, seaports, innovation, manufacturing, etc. And the link here is that by joining UNCLOS, UNCLOS requires us to share mining tech and profits with other countries as part of like the treaty, and that's bad for U.S. free market principles and econ independence. And like for example, we just went over how like UNCLOS sets laws for like different like ships going through the ocean, right? Like to like make sure they're protected, etc. That could in some ways hurt like where the U.S. could actually go to like trade stuff throughout the seas. So that could be really bad for like our free market and econ. There's also another link you can go for here. It's about bilateral agreements because UNCLOS is a unilateral agreement. Basically, what this means is that unilateral agreement is just only one side decides the conditions and then like everyone just has to agree. So like if I say like, oh, everyone here needs to like eat a cookie right now, you can't like negotiate with me. You just have to like say like, oh, yes, I agree or no, I don't agree. But bilateral agreement is like, hey, like guys, eat a cookie. No, actually, like I think we should eat like cookies and celery. So like you see how like both parties are involved in like making that agreement. Usually the US prefers bilateral agreements because we can like discuss stuff that's like good for our interests too. But UNCLOS is uniquely very unilateral. It's just like a treaty set forth that we must sign or not sign. So you could also argue about like bilateral agreements being better in general and like unilateral agreements like UNCLOS being really bad for like our economic principles. And then finally, the impact is more autonomy over trade and shipping equals like a stronger economy. That's just like historically proven. And also, the free market is also very central to capitalism, which is essential for the US. We're kind of built like we're a capitalistic country, right? So you can argue that capitalism overall is good. We're going to be making a lot of money, etc. Our economy is strong, citizens are happy, great. Over here, we also have another thing. It's the China DA. So basically, the uniqueness is that right now there's like territorial disputes over the SCS or South China Sea slash other Chinese sea territories that are very like being contained right now in the status quo and not like spilling over into like global warfare. And by ratifying the UN-CLOS, it raises tensions with China over ocean territory because like of all like the different like sea boundary lines that it draws in the UN-CLOS like treaty, right? And I found an article here. You can click on the link later if you'd like. But it says, moreover, rather than reduce tensions, the convention's provisions on the EEZ or economic exclusive zones and the continental shelf have rekindled long-standing territorial disputes and disputes over fisheries and hydrocarbon deposits in areas like the South and East China Seas. So you could tie this into like a bunch of different things. If you look in the quote, fisheries that could tie into like famine, food, etc., even trade. Hydrocarbon deposits could tie into like technology. For example, a lot of the stuff that you get from deep sea mining is really good for like green tech, renewables, electric vehicles, etc. So you could talk about China dominance in those like tech areas. The impact is that angering China worsens our diplomacy with them. Having no peace in the South China Sea is really bad because it can lead like militarization and war. But also you could go for like the other impacts too that I just said, like hydrocarbon deposits, deep sea mining, etc. And a quick note about deep sea mining. There's like an extra DA you could run about deep sea mining, countering like AF's argument about deep sea mining because there are some like AF arguments about how like if we ratify the treaty, we'll get more access to like deep sea mining, and we can like do that more. But like overall, first of all, it should be common sense that like mining stuff that's like really, really like non-renewable, which is like deep sea mining, like the minerals take millions of years to like create. Mining that has really bad effects for the environment. So you can just run an environment DA here. But basically, like overall, just like prep a DSM DA if you're thinking of like countering AF's DSM arguments, which I don't think will be really like common because it kind of sucks as an argument, but like still prep that just in case.
And if that's kind of confusing, just to put it more simple, AF could both run that it's like more regulates deep sea mining so we don't affect the environment as much, but AF could also run that it increases our ability to deep sea mine. It just depends on what they're going for.
Yeah. Honestly, it just depends on like what evidence you cut for this because like there's evidence for both out there.
Cool.
ICC.
International Criminal Court. Okay, so ICC, these are your affirmative contentions. You see most of the ones that we provide to you linked to like US hegemony, like impacts here. There's like 3 paths to it. So firstly is international law. So uniqueness, the US is like kind of hypocritical right now. We don't really care about war crimes so much because like historically the United States have done a lot of like bad stuff. So we don't have a high international credibility. By joining the ICC, it prevents the US from sabotaging like its own credibility, and it holds the US to the same standards as a bunch of other countries. Therefore, we have higher credibility in the global market. So the impact is obviously fewer war crimes. We prevent the U.S. from doing those, but also it's good for U.S. hegemony, which means there's better global stability and better rule of law. Another way you can reach this is with just war crimes themselves. By the United States, currently the United States, again, like it's currently like funding some like things that you could consider war crimes out in the world. Joining the ICC holds the U.S. accountable, and that increases our credibility and reduces the crime. So the impact, of course, because war crimes, like if you're weighing on like morality and justice here, if it's in other areas of the world, you still care a lot about this, so you want to reduce those, obviously, and it's good for humanity. Again, U.S. credibility and like diplomacy higher, it's better because better rule of law and better global stability. You could link those into economic impacts, and of course, like U.S. hegemony has like a long list of other impacts that you can just look into. So that's our third contention. With U.S. credibility being low, countries currently mistrust us. Joining the ICC means we have higher credibility and it improves our ability for diplomacy across other countries. The nations are more willing to work with the United States, and the more trust increases with the U.S. hegemony. So to negate the ICC, so firstly is cost. The United States would have to adhere to government spending that doesn't actually generate a direct return for the American people. This is kind of opposite to the other thing, where like instead of worrying about like whatever issues are going on out there, you weigh on like what's actually happening in the United States or like the obligation of the government. Becoming party to the Rome Statute means we have to pay a lot of money. That's just part of the ICC. By increasing spending, it doesn't directly help the economy by putting money into the ICC, and we would need to cut other programs because the budget is only finite. You'd have to take the money from somewhere else. And then the second thing is ineffectiveness. So the ICC has often been regarded as ineffective, having a lack of authority, being like small and holding charges that are often baseless. In other words, like ICC is not actually like a very well regulated or enforced system. The ICC crimes aren't even codified; they're kind of wishy-washy. So the link is America would have to follow in line with the ICC, pursuing meaningless charges. The impact is clear. Either the U.S. would have to dedicate significant resources to fix the ICC for them, or we wind up wasting time and resources with them. There's like a Guardian article that'll be in the slides when we put them out that you can look into like more evidence regarding the ICC being worthless. And this could be a turn for hegemony because actually putting money into like either just falling in line with baseless pursuits or putting money into like a dead program would reduce U.S. trust. And then finally is colonialism and racism. It's another issue with the ICC themselves. The ICC suspiciously has only ever convicted Africans. So this is actually true. They've like, not only are they ineffective, like the ICC has only arrested like something like 22 criminals, and all of them are Africans. The laws themselves are like provably biased. You can find cards like regarding those. The link here is by becoming party to the ICC. It means we have to agree to fix we have to agree to these laws or we have to fix these laws. So it's another two-way street, both of which are bad. The impact is by adhering to these laws, the U.S. becomes inefficient at best and loses credibility at worst. Repairing the ICC, on the other hand, is still fruitless endeavor, and the resources would be better used in like the projects we already have in the status quo to reduce crime out there, like our current like U.S. projects themselves.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, if the ICC is also unilateral, like the UNCLOS, then we actually can't change these laws, and we just have to basically agree to be racist. So if that's something you want to run on neg, is like it's forcing us to be racist, you can run that.
And also real quick on like the ineffective contention, make sure to like if you're gonna run this as like a DA, make sure to like put some offense in there too, because there are a lot of while there are a lot of like historical examples of like the ICC being ineffective. For example, I think like a few years back, they tried to like condemn the US for like doing something bad towards like some sort of like African country in terms of trade, but like the US was just like we don't care, and nothing actually happened. So you can find a lot of like past precedents and empirics that are really good, but make sure to tie it into like one of the things that like Deshaun mentioned for impacts. So like we waste time and resources. Why is that bad? Like political capital is very like resourceful and very like valuable for like a reason, right? Or some other things too that you can find like ineffective. Like ICC could even like lower our credibility, lower our hedge, etc. So like make sure that you don't just run pure defense, but you put some offense in there too. All good?
I think that's it, right?
Yeah. I guess ask us questions, find us in person, or just text the group chat. But yeah, that's it.
Bye, gang.
Bye.